Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Health Matters, where we ensure your health matters to you. I'll be your host, Aisha Zaid. Today we'll be focusing on an often and an overlooked but crucial aspect of our diet. It might seem small, but plays a very big role to our diet, and that is micronutrients. But before we get into our topic, let me introduce to you Zahra, who is going to help us understand what these are. Welcome, Zahra.
Thank you for having me.
So on to our first question, what are micronutrients and why are they important into our bodies?
Okay, so micronutrients are nutrients that we require in small quantities, but they are nonetheless very critical for the normal functioning of our bodies. And deficiencies in any of these micronutrients can be life-threatening. So we have two micronutrients, we have vitamins and minerals, and these micronutrients perform a wide range of functions, such as helping the body, make very important hormones, enzymes, as well as other substances that are required for normal growth and development. So in terms of micronutrient deficiencies, and for those who don't know what micronutrient deficiencies are, it's when your body has less of, it could be a vitamin or a mineral or both. So when your body has less of a certain vitamin or mineral than it actually requires to function normally. So when it comes to these micronutrient deficiencies, where we witness more cases is in low and middle income countries, or what people call developing countries. So these are areas where access to food is a challenge. Food might be scarce, maybe because of famine or drought or war. And in terms of the population group that suffers the most from these deficiencies, typically we see it in children as well as pregnant and lactating or breastfeeding women. But these deficiencies are very much preventable through nutrition education, like what we're doing right now, also through eating a diverse or having a diverse dietary pattern. So this is why we always insist on, don't always eat the same foods, eat different foods from different food groups. And then also through fortification. So you see different products like oil, like wheat, unapata wana fortify with vitamin A, vitamin D and such, and also through supplementation. So yeah, these strategies have been very effective in terms of significantly reducing, cases of micronutrient deficiencies.
Okay, what are some examples of these micronutrients? The key micronutrients that we need.
All right. So like I mentioned, we have vitamins and minerals. So under vitamins, we have fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. So let me start with water-soluble vitamins. So these are vitamins that dissolve in water. And because of this, they are not stored in the body. The excess is not stored in the body. So when you eat a food that contains these water-soluble vitamins, your body takes what it needs, and then the excess is removed, along with the urine. So under water-soluble vitamins, we have the B vitamins and vitamin C. So we have 8 B vitamins. We have vitamin B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, and B12. So these B vitamins collectively, how they operate is that they work as coenzymes in chemical reactions that lead to energy production. So when I say coenzymes, what I mean is, for example, when we were talking during the episode of macronutrients, we talked about how carbohydrates are converted to glucose and how proteins are converted to amino acids. So in order for carbs to be broken down into glucose, there's a chemical reaction that takes place in between, and these B vitamins are very important in that chemical reaction. So what we typically see with people who have a deficiency in B vitamins is they lack the energy. They complain of fatigue, and you can actually find that they're eating perfectly okay, their appetite is perfectly fine, they're eating well, but they just don't have the energy. So it's because they lack these vitamins, which actually help to convert the food that you've eaten into energy. So some of the common B vitamins is like vitamin B9, also known as folate. This I think any woman who has been pregnant might be familiar with this one, because it's usually given as a supplement from the onset of pregnancy, in combination with iron.
So the supplements given to the pregnant women, can they be found in foods?
Yeah, they're definitely found in foods,
because,
but now because
there are people
of the
who cannot afford the supplements, they are quite expensive.
Yeah, but in terms of, especially for pregnant women, you know, it's when it comes to pregnancy, you need extra. Like, yes, this is what you get from food, but because of the baby that is developing, you need to be supplemented, particularly with the folate and with iron. And I think in that, with regards to the folate and iron, it's actually quite affordable for pregnant women. They have made it very accessible for pregnant women. For other supplements, yeah, in terms of the expense, for sure. But at least for this one, you know, it's because it's very critical for the development of the brain and the spine of the baby. Yeah, in most cases, when a woman fails to take it, there's usually issues, you know, once the child is born. Yeah, and the folate is also important for the formation of red blood cells. So there's a certain kind of anemia that is caused when you have less of vitamin B9. So what happens is, if you have a deficiency in this vitamin, your body doesn't make very healthy red blood cells. And when you don't have healthy red blood cells, then of course that affects, you know, the transport of oxygen throughout your body, and it leads to weakness and such. So yeah. And then there's also cobalamin, or what we call vitamin B12. Again, that one is also important for the formation of red blood cells, as well as just the normal functioning of our nervous system. And then we have vitamin C. Vitamin C is also known as ascorbic acid. Vitamin C, as we know it, is important for proper, you know, immune function, and that's because vitamin C actually increases the production of white blood cells, because white blood cells are what the primary function is to destroy, you know, bacteria, virus, anything that has the potential of causing disease. So vitamin C increases the production of white blood cells, and it also encourages, it also sort of strengthens the white blood cells, enables them to function more effectively and more efficiently. Vitamin C is also important for the health of your skin. A lot of people don't know that. So it's actually transported to the skin, where it acts as an antioxidant, and it actually strengthens the skin barriers. Yeah, because our skin is a very important part of, you know, our health in terms of preventing the entry of bacteria, virus, pathogens, and so on. So in terms of the food sources, for B vitamins, they're mostly found in animal products. So milk, meat, fish, eggs, that's primarily where they're found. But they can also be found in the plant foods. So in sweet potatoes, in leafy greens, in whole greens, in whole grains rather, in beans, and so on. But particularly for vitamin B12 is only found in animal products. So a very common deficiency, it's a very common deficiency among people who are vegan or vegetarian, because you won't get any B12 from plant foods. So like vegans, vegetarians, as well as elderly people, they need to supplement with B12. Yeah. For vitamin C, it's found in citrus fruits, so lemons, limes, oranges, tangerine, as well as bell peppers or pili hoho. Yeah, of course, there are many more food sources, but those are just a few examples. And then we have fat-soluble vitamins. So these are vitamins that do not dissolve in water, and these are vitamins that the excess is stored in the body. The excess is stored in the liver. So we have 4 fat-soluble vitamins. We have vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. And these vitamins, of course, because they are fat-soluble, they require fat. In order for them to be absorbed well, fat needs to be present. So you need to consume them along with a source of fat. So in terms of the functions, vitamin A is important for proper vision, as well as for organ function. Vitamin D is important for our immunity, as well as bone health, because vitamin D is what enables our body to absorb calcium from the food that we've eaten. And as we know, calcium is a big component of our bones. And then we have vitamin E, which is which acts as an antioxidant, meaning that it protects our cells from damage. Vitamin K is important for blood clotting. So vitamin K helps the body to make proteins, which are necessary for blood clotting. So this is what enables wounds to stop healing, to stop bleeding continuously, and to allow them to heal. And then it's also important for bone health. So in terms of the food sources, vitamin A is present in animal products such as liver, dairy, fish, in the form of retinol. And then when it comes to the plant sources, such as sweet potatoes, carrots, essentially foods that have color, you know, the greens, the reds, the green, red, and yellow pigmentation or colors of food. That actually sort of tells you which vitamin it contains. So yeah, that's vitamin A, and in plant foods it's present in the form of what we call carotenoids. For vitamin D, we have sunlight, but it's not that sunlight contains vitamin D. Mm-hmm. We have the inactive form of vitamin D on our skin. So when we are exposed to the sun activates. Yeah, the sun activates, changes it to its active form. Yeah, and then fish oil is also a good source of vitamin D. As well as milk. For vitamin E, it's present in sunflower seeds, in almonds, in wheat germ. For vitamin K, it's present in leafy greens, in soybeans, in pumpkin. So these are just a few of the food sources. So under minerals, we have macrominerals and trace minerals. So macrominerals, we require them in large quantities. So for example, we have calcium, which is important for strong bones and teeth. And it's also important for normal muscle function. We also have magnesium. So magnesium is actually very important because it's present in very many enzyme reactions, like over 300 enzyme reactions. And it's important for example, regulating blood pressure. We also have sodium, also known as salt. So sodium is important for fluid balance as well as for regulating blood pressure. We also have potassium. Potassium is important also for nerve transmission, for muscle function, and so on. So under minerals, we have macrominerals and trace minerals. So under macrominerals, we have calcium. Calcium is important for strong bones and teeth. It's also important for normal muscle function. We have sodium, also known as salt. This is important for fluid balance as well as for regulating blood pressure. We have magnesium, which carries out very many enzyme reactions and is important for example, regulating blood pressure. And we also have potassium, which is important for nerve transmission as well as for normal muscle function. So in terms of the food sources, for calcium, as we know, milk products or dairy products, leafy greens as well. But one of the best sources of calcium is actually fish, and the type of fish that you can eat with the bones. So there's the kind of fish that is sort of medium sized, like the size of my phone, and the bones are like cartilage, they're not hard. So if you're able to get that kind of fish, it's actually very good. The kind of fish that you eat along with the bones, it's a much better source of calcium compared to dairy products. Also because people are increasingly becoming intolerant to dairy. Not everyone can tolerate dairy that much. Yeah, so fish, if you can get that fish with bones. Also sesame seeds, or what we call simsim. Again, a very good source of calcium. For magnesium, we have almonds, cashews, black beans. For sodium, like I said, it's salt, so the normal table salt, processed meats, canned foods. For potassium is more prominent in root vegetables like cassava, yams, potatoes, sweet potatoes, banana as well, lentils, and so on. With regards to trace minerals, I'll just mention a few. We have iron, which is important in terms of providing oxygen to the body, because iron is what makes hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is what transports oxygen to different parts of our body. We also have zinc, which is important for normal growth, for immune function, for wound healing. We also have iodine, which is important for normal thyroid function, as well as fluoride, which is important for the development of our bones and teeth. So these are just a few examples.
Are there any common deficiency in micronutrients that people should be aware of?
Okay, so we have vitamin D. Vitamin D is a very common deficiency that a lot of people are not aware of. And especially when we look at black people, people of color, vitamin D deficiency is actually much more common in people of color than white people, because the pigmentation of our skin, or the melanin, actually makes it more difficult for our body to synthesize or to convert that inactive form of vitamin D into its active form. And so vitamin D deficiencies are much more prominent in people of color than white people. Vitamin D deficiency is also common because we are more and more in enclosed spaces such as this. We only go outside when just for a few minutes. We don't really spend as much time outside in the sun. And then we have vitamin B12. So like I said, vitamin B12 is a common deficiency among vegans and vegetarians, so people who do not eat animal products. Also among the elderly, so people age 65 and onwards, because of reduced acid production in the body. So a lot of people think that the presence of acid is a bad thing, but your body, particularly in the stomach, which is where acid is more prominent, the acid is really important in terms of actually breaking down food well, in order to actually be able to release the nutrients that are present in food. So in elderly people, what we see is a reduced production of acid, and that means that food is not broken down as efficiently as before. And particularly with vitamin B12, it is primarily absorbed in the stomach. So for those reasons, for elderly people, supplementing with the B12 is very important. We also have iron. Iron is a very common deficiency among children, among menstruating women as well. There's also vitamin A. Vitamin A deficiency is also very common among, again, children, pregnant women, lactating women, but also, again, if your diet lacks the diversity that we talked about, if you're not, if your plate is not colorful, because we always say, let your plate be colorful, because it actually signifies the many different nutrients that are present in food, such as vitamin A. So yeah, those are some of the common micronutrient deficiencies.
So how can people ensure that they're getting enough micronutrients in their diet?
Okay, so number one is diversity, like I said. So eat different foods across and within different food groups. That's number one. Number two is supplementation. So because of the effects of modern agriculture, when we look at modern agriculture, it's more focused on high output, producing large quantities of food. And so for this reason, you find that because of modern agriculture, the nutrient quality of the foods that we eat, the vegetables, the fruits, the whole grains, etc., the nutrient quality is quite low. It's not the same as, 100, 200 years ago, because of the effects of modern agriculture, because of the use of chemical pesticides, because of the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides and monoculture and so on. So this is why you see people advocating for sustainable agriculture or traditional agriculture, which the practices actually increase the nutrient quality within the soil. Because if you think about it, we get the plants or the foods that we eat. Where do the nutrients come from? They come from the soil, and because because of modern agriculture, the health of our soil has been continuously depleted. But with sustainable agriculture, you find that the practices within that actually enrich the soil with more nutrients. So because of modern agriculture, it's actually important for us, even if we don't have a chronic disease, even if we are not old, it's actually important for us to think about supplementing some of these nutrients. But like I always say, do not supplement blindly. Always consult a doctor, a nutritionist, have tests done, so that when you buy a supplement, you know that you're buying something that your body actually needs. You're not just guessing.
So are there any interactions between micronutrients and macronutrients?
Okay, so there are no interactions between macro and micronutrients, but there are interactions between two micronutrients. So for example, iron and calcium usually compete for absorption. So this is why we tell people who have iron deficiency anemia not to drink anything or take anything that is high in calcium along with their main meal, because what happens is if you combine, and a lot of people will, for example, drink tea with their main meal. So what happens is the calcium and the iron compete for absorption, and calcium is what ends up being absorbed. So if you will take anything that is high in calcium, if you will drink tea or coffee, let it be 2 hours before or 2 hours after your main meal. Also, there are interactions between iron and zinc as well, so the same concept of competing for absorption. So there are cases where people who have supplemented with the zinc tend to also develop deficiencies in iron. Yeah, so for the same reason, zinc ends up being absorbed and iron is not absorbed.
So what you're trying to say is when you take the same amount of different vitamins, they could lead to some deficiency.
Well, yes, there is that potential. It doesn't always happen, but there is that potential. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any, while taking the excessive fats intake, can they hinder the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins?
When you take
the excessive fats
when you take too much, fat is a macronutrient.
Yeah.
So when you take too much fat, can it prevent absorption of?
Absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins.
No, it actually enhances the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Yeah.
Yes, we have come to the end of the topic of the day. Maybe you have your last insight.
With our last insight.
Okay, that's it from us today. Remember, while these micronutrients are needed in small amounts, they have a big significance in our health. Having a well-balanced meal is getting the right micronutrients. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.